is terroir? You may have heard that word if you've ever been around wine or been around somebody that knows wine. Don't be alarmed, it's not that intimidating. I'm going to jump into a more robust definition in today's video. Hi, I'm Tim. I am from Elma Wine and Liquor. Thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. Would really love you to subscribe and share this with somebody else if you find it enjoyable or informational. So we are going to jump into the word terroir. Yes, it sounds very fancy. It's a French-based word kind of meaning land or earth. And what it means specifically to the wine industry is how the land, earth, environment, climate, geography, all of those different things impact the quality of the grapes and the wine that are being made. More so particularly during the growing portion of the wine. So, for example, there's kind of different elements in the terroir, like I just said. It's not just the soil and the earth, it's the whole picture of the climate. So one of the things that impacts it is the temperature. That's part of the climate. So I have here Cabernet Sauvignon from the Paso Robles area of California. The average temperature in 2023 was in the 70 degrees. I think it was about 74 degrees that year. That's a very hot climate, especially for grapes. What that does to the grapes as they're ripening, they get very ripe. They get very juicy, very rich, and that leads to a very juicy, rich wine. On the other hand, we have a 100% Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux in France, where the average temperature in that same year was about 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So quite a significant difference in temperature, which kind of slows down the ripening of those grapes. They don't ripen quite as fast, and so they still have kind of the same growing season timeline from spring to fall to grow, from bud break to ripen. So because it's a little bit slower, those juices and sugars don't develop as fully as a warmer climate. That leads to a leaner or a lighter wine that is a little bit more acidic, that doesn't have that rich, juicy, sugary feeling to it, that very fruity, upfront punch that a lot of California wines, but especially the Paso Robles wines do. So that's terroir can relate to the temperature and the environment that the grapes are grown. That's impacting how they develop. There are other factors that go into it, how the winemaker addresses those during the winemaking process and the aging process and all those things. But a fun thing to do one time would be to grab a bottle of 100% Cabernet from a warm area like Paso Robles and a 100% Cabernet from a cooler climate like Bordeaux and try them side by side. You'll really see how different they can be. Same grape, same variety, just different growing temperatures. Terroir, because it means earth, land, the soil types definitely play into how the grapes develop on the vine, how the vines grow. There's hundreds of different soil types out there. I did not take earth science. I'm not a geologist. Don't know the ins and outs of all of that very well. But every different type of soil is going to impact how the grapes grow a little bit differently. So for example, we have this Solas Viognier, which is grown in a very sandy type soil. Now the sand will kind of let any water just drain very quickly. So the grapes don't get as much of the water, or the roots have to go down much, much further to get that water. This often leads to very elegant wines, very aromatic wines, and just kind of elegant is the best term for them, very delicate and interesting. as opposed to something that's grown in clay soil, which this wine from the Côte d'Aron region of France is grown in a more of a clay soil, which helps kind of retain that water. It helps it stay a little bit cooler because the water's there, so that the grapes don't get as hot because of all that moisture that's just still sitting there right in the clay, kind of helping cool, helping irrigate, helping get those juicy grapes. They'll have a lot bolder flavors, very rich, very strong wines from a clay soil. And then we have a more of a silty soil, which helps retain some of the water, but it kind of gets a little bit warmer, like the sand. Sand also kind of produces a warmer soil base or ground base. So that silt as well will retain some of the water, but gets hotter than the clay does. So that will produce more smooth wines, more well-rounded wines. Just a little bit, so just a little bit differences. Even though they both retain water, the temperature difference and how the clay reacts to the silt is a little bit different. And like I said, there are hundreds of different soil types out there that grapes can be grown in. So everyone is going to impact that a little bit differently. And also, just because I use this Côte d'Aron area as an example of clay, just because you see a wine from a particular region doesn't necessarily always mean that the grapes are grown in that type of soil. Within regions, there can be vast differences in the soil types from one vineyard block to the next vineyard block. That's why it's you see some weight given to single vineyard wines, because when they're all grown in that one block, the chances are they're all grown in the same soil type, which lends some kind of cohesiveness or some similarity to the grapes, versus when even within Napa Valley, for example, there can be parts of the valley with more siltier soil versus parts of the valley that have a little bit thicker, rockier soil, and then that can vary quite a bit. So just because you see one wine that comes from a particular area that is grown in a particular soil type, doesn't mean that all wines in that region are grown in the exact same soil type. It does vary quite a bit. Another aspect of terroir, in addition to the temperatures and the soil types that can play an impact in how the grapes develop on the vine, is the geography. So we have this wine here from Terroirs de los Andes, which is from the Andes Mountains in Argentina. It is grown at very high elevation. That impacts how the grapes are grown, because you get those warmer, more direct sunlight during the day, you get those cooler evenings, and then depending on where it is on the mountains, you'll get fog lines in different spots. So that can also impact, whether or not the grapes get that morning sun or no morning sun, because there's certain fog rolling in. It could be quite a bit going on when you get into the elevation aspect of it. But a lot of times what people say is that the higher the elevation, the more intense fruit that is produced. So you'll get certain wines that really tout how high they're grown. This one is at 3609 feet above sea level, because they feel that really makes those more rich, really fruity types flavors. Mountains and valleys in general, those geographical features can play quite an impact as well. Same, like I said, these are grown in the mountains at elevation. Depending on which side of the mountain the grapes are grown on, whether it's getting a lot of sunlight or not a lot of sunlight, a lot of wind, not a lot of wind, more rain, less rain, the fog that I mentioned earlier, all those different aspects in these geographical feature type environments can really impact how the grapes develop on the vine. Another one is just geographical bodies. So this one is Vermentino grown right near a large lake. So you think of a lot of wines being grown in California, it's close to the Pacific Ocean. That body of water stays cooler throughout the year, It lends some cool air to the grapes. Smaller lakes can also lend heat to wines, to the grapes. The water will warm up, it'll stay warmer longer in a smaller body of water, and can help keep the cool nights just a little bit warmer when the grapes are grown closer to bodies of water. That's particularly predominant with this one in Italy, the Finger Lakes region in New York. But then you also have, like I mentioned, California wines near the Pacific Ocean, a lot of Mediterranean wines, Spain, France, Portugal, Greece, that get that salty sea air because they're grown so close to a large body of salt water. So you'll get some salinity and that type of flavor on some of those wines. Think about a Côte de Provence rosé, for example. So those are kind of some of the factors that go into terroir. This is an endless topic that masters of wine will spend months and years studying all of the very specific different ways that all the unique soil types combined with the heat or cold, combined with the geographical features and the elevation, can impact the development of those grapes, how much sugar, how much fruit, flavors they're going to have, and what that will do once they're actually turned into wine. It is an endless subject. I really hope that this gave you a kind of a brief overview. So the next time you hear somebody mention the word terroir when you're out at a party or sipping wine with a friend, that you have some base of knowledge and can share one little tidbit of information to make yourself look knowledgeable on the subject. Really hope you enjoyed this. Please hit that subscribe button, the like button, and share this with a friend. And as always, leave your comments below. Love to have more specific questions on this that we can either answer in the comments or make another video on. Thanks for watching. Cheers.